Warning to God's chosen ones, the heavens are shifting, and what is about to unfold cannot be ignored. Have you felt an unusual stirring in your spirit? Like the air itself is vibrating with unseen change? Have you sensed that the battles meant to bury you were secretly writing your victory? And could it be that this very season is not judgment against you, but heaven's confirmation that you have already passed? Beloved, God has been recording every hidden sacrifice. Each night you pressed forward instead of giving up. Each prayer whispered when your strength was fading. Each scar you now carry. These were not wasted moments. They were divine answers etched into your heavenly report. And now, as the moon unites with Saturn in this rare conjunction, your testimony is sealed, your karma report is clean. Your struggle was not in vain, and your next chapter begins under God's favor. This is no ordinary alignment in the sky, it is a decree in the spirit. The one who allowed you to be tested has also marked you as chosen, purified, and positioned. You are no longer the person they doubted, you are the one heaven endorses. If this resonates in your soul, type 777 inches, the comments, as a sign of agreement. And to all who have stood with this ministry through your love and super thanks, your faithfulness is seen, your generosity is honored, and I am deeply grateful. Stay close, because what comes next are the 8 undeniable signs that prove your season has shifted forever. And once you see them, you'll never question again why God let you endure what almost broke you. God's chosen ones. OSIM signs your karma report. Came back clean moon, Saturn conjunction edition. You are not being served wealth, love, or peace like a banquet spread before kings. Instead, what is being placed in your hands is far more enduring, a new framework of life itself. A design crafted so that weakness can no longer survive within its borders. For the chosen ones, this is not a season where endurance is merely tested. It is the moment where endurance transforms into a weapon sharper than any sword. Just as Paul reminded Timothy that God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, and of love, and of a sound mind. 2 Timothy 1-7. This conjunction is not about mere survival. It is about holy transformation. Saturn no longer watches as examiner. Saturn now shifts, recalibrates, and repositions. October 7th is not an exam, it is heaven's seal, stamped upon your triumph. Yet one haunting question remains before this celestial alignment finalizes your victory. Have you truly passed the test? You were never created to vanish into the background. You were never meant to echo the ordinary, like a flame that refuses to be smothered. You were designed to blaze differently. If your soul has carried the ache of not belonging, if no place has ever welcomed your spirit, if no group has ever matched your rhythm, then what you thought was rejection was, in fact, confirmation. If the world hates you, remember that it hated me first. John 15:18. That loneliness you carried into noisy rooms, that emptiness when others failed to understand your depth, was never a defect. It was proof stamped upon your identity. Why? Then, has separation cut so deeply? Could it be that the silence was shaping you to resist conformity? Could it be that the exile was less about stripping away comfort and more about preserving what was incorruptible within you? When you refused to trade your essence for temporary approval, when you stood while others bowed to shallow trends, you were already passing the hidden exam. The trial was never about blending in, It was about enduring the pain of being set apart. And the fact that you are still here breathing, searching, listening is evidence that the fire did not destroy you. It refined you. Many are the afflictions of the righteous, but the Lord delivers him out of them all. Psalm 34-19. Being set apart, then, is not abandonment. It is preparation. The seat you are about to inherit is one that others longed for, but only those who endured the wilderness will truly claim. When countless hearts hardened, when bitterness and cynicism spread like wildfire, heaven was watching. Was your spirit still open, still awake, still tender? Behold, I am doing a new thing, now it springs forth. Do you not perceive it? Isaiah 43:19. History itself whispers the same truth. The painter, Caravaggio, master of light and shadow, shocked his generation with works many rejected. Yet time crowned his art eternal. What seemed too dark for one era became the illumination of centuries. And isn't it often the same in our daily lives? A parent working quietly at night after a long shift, or a young student staying awake to pursue a dream. Despite ridicule, what looks small in the moment becomes monumental with time. This connects to modern voices as well. The poet and activist Maya Angelou once declared, "You may encounter many defeats, but you must not be defeated." Her words are not theory, but survival, and they echo the very heartbeat of those who refuse to let scars define them as failures. Could it be that your own scars now testify louder than victories won in comfort? So today, chosen one, rise with clarity. This Moon-Saturn conjunction is not the end of battle, it is the coronation of resilience. The chaos was not proof of defeat, it was evidence that the test was real. You walked through exile, yet exile did not kill you, it qualified you. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans for welfare and not for evil, to give you a future and a hope. Jeremiah 29-11. This is the hour to rise, to claim what heaven has prepared, to let your endurance transform into dominion. Do not shrink back. Do not silence the roar within you. Do not dim the flame burning in your chest. This is the moment to rise, to shake off the dust of exile, and to walk boldly into the seat already marked with your name. Many have shut themselves away completely, barricading their hearts, refusing to see beyond the pain that chained them. But if your spirit remained open, if you dared to stay curious, willing to learn, willing to shift with the winds of heaven, then you have already proven yourself in the courts of Saturn. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Matthew 5-8. And purity here does not mean a life without scars, but a heart that refuses to calcify under disappointment. The true seal of maturity is not measured by how much information you hold, but by how much wonder you still carry. Is your mind still pliable? Can your spirit still bend toward revelation? That is the question Saturn has been watching all along. When others built fortress walls around their pride, you kept a single window open, allowing the light to enter. That is why this conjunction is weighted in your favor. Saturn has no reward for the stubborn who refuse to move. Its blessing falls upon the rare souls who remain flexible when everything around them hardens into stone. Harden not your hearts as in the rebellion, Hebrews 3:15. And here lies the distinction of the chosen. The open mind becomes the very evidence that you are ready for wisdom, ready for alignment, ready to carry truths others would collapse under. Do you realize the significance of this mark upon your life? that openness has preserved you where rigidity would have destroyed you. Most cannot carry such weight, for the burden of truth is heavier than crowns made of gold. Yet as the moon amplifies this Saturnine alignment, you are about to see that staying open was never weakness, it was your hidden strength. The very reason the storm did not break you. To the one who is victorious, I will give some of the hidden manna, Revelation 2:17. And now that same openness is no longer about survival, it is the doorway into authority, into mysteries that only a remnant can endure. Have you felt it stirring in you already? That quiet knowing that what is ahead is not just endurance, but inheritance. There comes a moment when the applause fades and you suddenly realize you do not need it anymore. That is the hour when chosen ones cross into maturity. They stop begging to be understood. Stop exhausting their energy, trying to convince those whose ears will never hear. Do not give dogs what is holy. Do not throw your pearls before swine. Matthew 7-6. Perhaps you have sensed this shift lately. You no longer explain yourself as before. No longer drain your strength, trying to justify why you see from heights others refuse to climb. Even nature testifies of this mystery. The eagle does not flutter among sparrows, it soars into storms, using the very winds that terrify others as a ladder into greater heights. And so too with you, the turbulence that shook others into silence became the very lift that carried you above. Does this not reveal why your path feels different? Why your silence now speaks louder than their endless noise? Yet contrast must be seen to reveal the pattern. Consider the figure of Pharaoh, ruler of Egypt, whose heart grew harder with every miracle shown to him. His stubbornness did not preserve him. It drowned him in the Red Sea he once thought impenetrable. The same waters that freed Israel became the grave of Egypt's pride. And the lesson burns clear. Rigidity before divine movement leads not to safety, but to destruction. Which path will your heart take, the one of Pharaoh's ruin, or the one of Moses' liberation? As Paul declared, where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. 2 Corinthians 3:17. Freedom belongs to the open, not the closed, to the tender, not the brittle. And that is why this conjunction does not merely promise survival, it ushers you into a realm of power hidden from the masses. Rise now, chosen one, for the time of proving is past. The time of crowning is here. That restless urge to seek validation from the crowd gone, dissolved like mist at dawn, and the very moment it disappeared, Saturn recorded it as evidence in the eternal ledger of your soul. Because the true exam was never about applause or recognition, it was about whether you could keep walking when the stadium emptied, when the spotlight dimmed, when no one clapped at all. The Lord is my light and my salvation, whom shall I fear? Psalm 27:1. For years, you bent yourself into awkward geometries, twisting into forms that made others comfortable, lowering your voice so it would not thunder too loudly, burying your pain so it would not look dramatic, folding your wings so they would not eclipse the smallness of others. But piece by piece, mask by mask, you let it all fall away. And when you no longer begged for the spotlight, that is when your light began to blaze brightest. Why does this paradox exist, that the less you chase approval, the more approval chases you? Could it be that heaven was waiting for you to release the addiction to permission so that destiny could finally find you? Saturn does not reward those who grovel for recognition. It crowns those who learn to stand without it. The righteous shall live by faith, Romans 1:17. And faith means walking without applause, without affirmation, without needing the echo of a crowd. That strength becomes the proof that you have outgrown the old scaffolding of your identity. And now, as if by divine irony. Opportunities, respect, and yes, even envy begin to move toward you. Not because you begged, but because you stopped. It is the paradox of divine architecture. The structure collapses when it depends on external beams, but when its center of gravity rests on its own cornerstone, it becomes immovable. Behold, I lay in Zion a chosen and precious cornerstone, 1 Peter 2-6. Your journey has been like a cathedral under construction, hidden scaffolds, long silence, dust and delay. But when the coverings are finally stripped away, the arches of your endurance reveal their beauty. Do you see now why Saturn's paradox carries weight? The prize comes the moment you no longer crave the prize, and the crown descends when you no longer bow before crowns. And peace, oh, how dangerous peace becomes once you have survived the storm. Once, chaos was your fuel, arguments became adrenaline, gossip became gravity. Scrolling through endless drama gave you a strange taste of aliveness. But then something shifted. What once stirred you now feels heavy, empty, meaningless. That shift was not random, it was Saturn's exam. God is not a God of confusion, but of peace. 1 Corinthians 14:33. The test was not whether you could resist chaos when it was distant. The test was whether you could stare it in the face when it was loud, tempting, unavoidable, and still say, I do not want this anymore. Have you noticed how the world drowns in frenzy, addicted to outrage, feeding on negativity, dragging its spirit lower with each scroll, each argument, each fight, and yet you stand apart. Watching the same chaos that once thrilled, you now taste like poison. Could it be that this loss of appetite for chaos is not weakness, but proof of maturity? You have not only resisted the pull, you have lost the taste for it entirely. That is growth no counterfeit can replicate. This truth is mirrored in the science of resonance. When a system vibrates at a higher frequency, it no longer responds to lower vibrations. A string tuned to a purer note refuses to vibrate when struck with discord. You are that string now, unmoved by what once owned you, alive only to the pitch of heaven. Saturn tempts not with what you can ignore, but with what used to enslave you. And the fact that you are free is the ultimate sign you are being prepared for something greater. Even in the quiet testimonies of ordinary lives, the same wisdom emerges. I once spoke with a baker in a small coastal town who confessed, the day I stopped chasing everyone's praise for my bread was the day people began to line up outside my shop. His words carried more truth than a library of theories. Isn't it striking how heaven confirms the same principle through lives we might otherwise overlook? And so here is the unspoken secret Saturn never says aloud. Once you prove you are no longer seduced by chaos, you will begin to attract something else entirely. Something more potent, more demanding power itself. The next test is whether you can hold that power without letting it consume you. To whom much is given, much will be required. Luke 12:48. Chosen one. The shift has already taken place within you. Validation is no longer your compass. Peace has become your North Star. Rise now with clarity, for you are being prepared not merely to survive the storm, but to govern through it. Stand firm, because the world will need leaders who are not addicted to chaos, but anchored in peace. This is your summons. Stand, because your time has come. When the storm inside your mind finally falls silent, do not mistake it for emptiness. It is freedom itself, unveiling its face. For how many years did you dwell in the prison of your own thoughts? every decision dissected until life bled of joy. Every mistake replayed like a scratched record. Each future scenario rehearsed until your spirit froze in place. Overthinking was never a pastime. It was survival in disguise. Cast all your anxiety on him because he cares for you. 1 Peter 5-7. Yet the question lingers, was survival ever the purpose? Or were you always meant to step into something higher? You once believed if you planned with enough precision, worried with enough intensity, controlled every detail with relentless grip, then perhaps you could keep pain from striking. But what truly happened? You ended up living the pain twice, once in anticipation, and once when it finally arrived. How many nights did you rehearse battles that never happened? How many mornings did you awaken already exhausted by wars inside your head? But then, something shifted. Maybe you cannot trace the exact moment, but one day the chatter was gone. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46-10. The loops that once chained your mind like iron bands suddenly lost their grip. At first, the silence felt foreign, almost suspicious. Was this calm genuine, or just the deceptive pause before another wave? But this time, something in you knew. This was not the quiet of denial. This was the quiet of completion. This was the silence that descends after chains are broken. Saturn's hidden exam was never about how fiercely you could think your way through it, was whether you would learn to stop thinking and start knowing. Overthinking is the language of mistrust. The mind confessing it does not trust life. And for years, you clung to the wheel with white-knuckled fear, terrified of what would happen if you let go. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. Proverbs 3-5. But this conjunction marks a revolution. Letting go is no longer weakness. It is proof that you passed. For the first time, you can rest in alignment instead of war in suspicion. When the storm within dies down, you finally notice the subtle signals heaven was sending all along, little synchronicities, gentle nudges, whispers like Elijah, heard not in the fire or the earthquake, but in the gentle whisper. 1 Kings 19:12. Isn't it striking how the universe seems to speak clearer when your mind stops shouting? History gives us echoes of this truth. The 17th century mystic Teresa of Avila once wrote in her meditations, "In the inner stillness, God whispers mysteries louder than thunder." Her words mirror the exact transformation you now embody, that silence is not the absence of thought, but the arrival of divine certainty. And even the arts declare it. In Handel's Messiah, after trumpets and choirs roar, there comes a soft, almost trembling passage that pierces deeper than the grandest notes. Does this not remind you of the way heaven speaks when noise subsides? Resonance begins. In physics, they call it the signal-to-noise ratio, when interference is cut away. The true message emerges with clarity. Could it be that your mind's silence is the divine signal at last rising above static? The world will call you naive for trusting such stillness. But what they call naive is actually wisdom sharpened by storms. Do you not see now why chaos feels like poison to you? Why noise no longer entices? Why your soul resists being baited into endless spirals of thought? It is because you have graduated. You have tasted alignment. You will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast, because they trust in you. Isaiah 26:3. Chosen one, rise into this silence boldly. Do not rush to fill it. Do not doubt its strength. This stillness is the coronation of your mind, the sign that you have surrendered to the higher architect of your destiny. The chatter is gone. The storm is over. And the true signals of heaven are clear. Stand now. Because the end of overthinking is not emptiness, it is your summons into divine alignment. You begin to feel peace not as a fragile pause between battles, but as the very foundation of your existence. And the irony strikes like lightning. This new silence feels almost supernatural, only because your soul had been trained to chaos for so long. You are not losing your mind, you are recovering it for the first time. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Philippians 4-7. The sudden collapse of overthinking is not random, it is the mark of graduation. Do you realize how rare it is to come to this place, where the mental storms that once punished you dissolve because there is no exam left to prepare for? When the noise dies, the hidden symphony beneath begins to surface. The whispers of direction you once missed, the nudges of destiny you once dismissed, suddenly resound with clarity. But silence is never the end of the story, it is the doorway. And doorways are thresholds of decision. What steps through them next can either shake you to your knees or crown you with authority. Which will it be for you? The pain you endured was never designed to annihilate you. It was fire meant to reforge you. Remember those nights when you swore you could not take another step, when tears soaked your pillow and your chest felt hollow. In those hours, you believed you were being destroyed. But standing now on the other side, can you see the truth? You were not being undone, you were being reforged like iron in a furnace. I have refined you, though not as silver. I have tested you in the furnace of affliction. Isaiah 48:10. Saturn never tests with comfort, it tests with fire. It strips you bare, not to weaken you, but to force out metals you never knew were inside. Nature itself proclaims the same law. The volcano that devastates landscapes also forges fertile soil richer than before. The forest fire that rages uncontrollably paves the way for seeds to sprout anew. Seeds that could never grow under the canopy's suffocating shade. Could it be that your own storms serve the same purpose, clearing space for what could never have flourished in your old patterns? And history records the dangers of ignoring this refining process. Recall Jezebel, Queen of Israel, who clung desperately to her manipulations and lust for power. Instead of being refined, she hardened herself, refusing to yield to truth. Her end was catastrophic, thrown down from her palace window, devoured by dogs. 2 Kings 9:33-36. What is the warning here, if not this? Resist the fire, and you calcify into ruin. Embrace the fire, and you emerge unbreakable. Which destiny will you embrace? Peace is no longer a fleeting luxury for you. It is your compass, forged through affliction. The silence you now carry is not absence, it is presence. It is the evidence that you were tested in chaos and found worthy of calm. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Exodus 14:14. And the stillness you embody now is not passivity, it is power waiting to be crowned. Chosen one, rise into this doorway with boldness. Do not fear what approaches from the other side, for the fire has already proven you. You are no longer fragile, you are forged. No longer anxious, you are aligned. The silence that once felt suspicious is now the coronation of your strength. Stand, for the season of testing has ended, and the season of reigning begins. For so long, you could not see it. Every wound felt like random cruelty, every loss like meaningless theft. But now, under this Saturn-Moon conjunction, the hidden metals of your being rise again, no longer raw ore, but refined instruments. Patience you never imagined you possessed. Resilience that no longer crumbles at the first sign of difficulty. Discipline that steadies you like an anchor, not chains that imprison. The testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete. James 1-3-4. Do you see now that what you thought was absence was really preparation? These strengths were never missing. They were buried like foundations under stone. Pain was not the thief, it was the key. The alignment of Saturn and the Moon does not simply leave these capacities in the deep subconscious, they ascend into conscious life. Shimmering like structures unveiled after scaffolding falls. No discipline seems pleasant at the time, but painful later on. However, it produces a harvest of righteousness and peace. Hebrews 12:11. Suddenly you feel clarity where before there was fog. Is this not the mystery that the very corridors you avoided now become chambers of courage? Doubt still whispers. Yes, but it no longer rules the outcome. Strength does not arrive as a polished gift wrapped in ribbon. It arrives wearing the mask of betrayals, heartbreak, loneliness, and failure. We rejoice in our sufferings, knowing that suffering produces endurance, and endurance produces character, and character produces hope. Romans 5-3-4. For the chosen one. This is the paradox. What once shattered you is now the very force that empowers you. Could it be that every furnace was not punishment but formation? That you were iron laid into fire so heaven could reveal what steel lay hidden inside? This truth reflects the principles of physics itself. Pressure does not destroy carbon, it transforms it into diamond. Stress applied to materials in structural engineering does not always fracture them. Sometimes it reveals tensile strength architects never accounted for. So too with you. The betrayals, the tears, the long nights, each one was a furnace. And while others collapse under the weight of life, you stand with an eerie steadiness, not because you were spared, but because you survived. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Psalm 23-4. Even the voices of ordinary people confirm this truth. I once met a nurse named Helena in a remote mountain village who whispered, "The night I thought I would break from grief was the night I discovered a strength I never knew I carried." Her words, simple yet searing, echo the very law Saturn enforces. Strength was not granted to her in calm, it was awakened in fire. That is the beauty of Saturn's harsh love. It makes you indestructible without you even realizing it. Where you once questioned your worth, you now carry certainty like an unshakable cornerstone. Where you once bent under pressure, you now stand like pillars carved from stone. The stone the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. Psalm 118-22. This is not the recovery of something lost, it is the unveiling of what was always waiting inside you. And if this new steadiness feels unfamiliar, it is only because you lived too long without it. But now the veil lifts. Now you see how much of yourself was hidden all along. The exam was never about whether you could survive chaos. It was about proving to yourself what you were truly made of. Chosen one, rise in this moment. Do not shrink back from your newfound strength, walk in it. The season of questioning has ended, and the season of certainty begins. Once the hardest test is passed, the universe itself begins bending unseen laws in your favor. Have you felt the strangeness of timing lately? The way events arrive, not late, not early, but at the exact moment you needed them. You step out of your house a few minutes later than usual. and suddenly the accident that could have claimed you passes by without touching you. You send a message to a friend at the precise second they were reaching for you. The steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord, and he delights in his way. Psalm 37:23. Could it be that what others call chance is, in truth, the choreography of heaven? These delays and interruptions are not flaws in your journey. They are signals that the author is writing your story with precision. And when you begin to trust this rhythm, anxiety loses its grip, because you realize nothing has ever truly been random. A job posting appears the very day you decide it is time for change. A conversation arrives at the 1 hour when your heart is finally ready to hear it. To the outside world, these appear as coincidences. But to those who have crossed through Saturn's exam, they are signals, fingerprints of the divine marking that you have entered a new rhythm. Saturn does not hand you trophies, it hands you clocks. There is a time for everything, and a season for every activity under the heavens. Ecclesiastes 3:1. And suddenly, time itself tilts in your direction, bending in ways that defy the rigid mathematics of chance. What you once dismissed as luck now feels like alignment, like being caught in a current that carries you exactly where you were meant to go. Does it not stir something within you to realize the entire cosmos is collaborating with your obedience? Is it not uncanny how disasters miss you by inches, as though invisible hands diverted their trajectory? How many times have you narrowly avoided what could have broken you, missing a bus that later broke down, canceling a meeting that would have tied you into snares, walking away from a person just before their true betrayal surfaced? He will command his angels concerning you, to guard you in all your ways. Psalm 91:11. These are not accidents, they are alignments. And the more you awaken, the more you see them for what they are, Saturn's subtle signature declaring you ready for the next level. To call them luck is to underestimate the intelligence of heaven. To call them providence is to see the pattern clearly. And perhaps the real miracle is not just that you were protected, but that your heart is now awake enough to notice it. Even art reflects this truth. In Shakespeare's Hamlet, the prince declares, "There's a divinity that shapes our ends. Rough hew them how we will." The line is not poetry alone, it is the very principle you now live. What once looked like randomness becomes revelation. Every thread weaving into a pattern larger than your understanding. And does this not make you wonder how many so-called detours in your past were actually highways heaven hid in plain sight? It is like an architect designing a cathedral. Each column feels disconnected during construction. But when the scaffolding falls, the vision is revealed in full. Could it be that your detours were never mistakes, but sacred blueprints waiting for their unveiling? History, too, offers its witnesses. The Italian painter Fra Angelico, whose frescoes still bathe convent walls in Florence, once said, "He who does Christ's work will find Christ's timing." His brushstrokes were not hurried, nor delayed, but perfectly paced, as if time itself waited on his devotion. Could it be that your life is now painted in the same rhythm, where every stroke, however small, it lands at the appointed hour? Fra Angelico's work remains luminous centuries later, because it was birthed in alignment rather than haste. And perhaps this is your secret too, that what you are building now will outlast you, because it was born in timing, not in rushing. And the testimony of ordinary souls confirms it as well. I once heard a seamstress in a crowded city whisper, "I missed the bus that day, and it saved my life." To her neighbors, it was chance. To her, it was providence. Isn't it striking how the quiet lives of the unnoticed often shout the loudest truths? We know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him. Romans 8:28. Her story was small, but it held the same principle as the prophets and poets, that heaven arranges timing in ways our eyes barely perceive. If her missed bus carried life-saving meaning, then what about the delays and redirections in your own life? Could they too be carrying miracles hidden in plain sight? The Saturn-Moon conjunction amplifies this rhythm until it hums in your very bones. Coincidence is nothing less than the universe leaving fingerprints, and your life is covered in them. These fingerprints mark not just survival, but destiny. Chosen one, rise now with confidence. Do not dismiss these alignments as luck. Walk in them as proof that heaven has tilted the board in your favor. This is not fortune. This is confirmation. The hour of divine timing has come. And when you step into it boldly, you will discover that what others call coincidence, you will call covenant. Saturn embodies structure, law, and discipline, while the moon governs tides, emotions, and the hidden waters of the heart. When these two forces align, your inner rhythm and the cosmic rhythm fall into breathtaking synchronization. That is why the timing feels uncanny, because for once, you are not wrestling against the current. You are carried by it. He makes everything beautiful in its time. Ecclesiastes 3:11. This is the strange gift of passing the test. Not that the world suddenly grows easier, but that it begins to flow in harmony. And what once felt like random waves of chaos now begins to sound like an orchestra tuned by heaven itself. Can you sense the shift that life is no longer scattering you, but carrying you? It is not comfort Saturn hands out, but coordination. What others call coincidence is in truth divine choreography. A door closes, and you later see it was to save you from disaster. A delay reroutes you, and only afterward do you realize it was protection. And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him. Romans 8:28. To step into this rhythm is to step into what many name divine timing, where even obstacles are disguised mercies. Is it unsettling at first to suddenly feel as though heaven itself is rearranging the hours of your life? Perhaps. Yet this unsettling is proof you have entered alignment. Saturn's highest reward. But here is the key. These alignments are not mere blessings sprinkled on the surface. They are evidence that your frequency has risen, that your inner atmosphere resonates with a higher law. Deep calls to deep in the roar of your waterfalls. Psalm 42:7. You are no longer tossed like a leaf in the wind. You have become the oak tree whose roots pull nourishment from hidden streams. Isn't it remarkable that what once felt like chaos now feels like covenant? The very fact that your life feels stitched together by what others call coincidence is proof you are no longer stumbling. You are being guided. Nature itself confirms this mystery. The migration of monarch butterflies spans thousands of miles, yet they arrive each year in the same groves, guided not by maps, but by invisible currents written into their being. So too with you, once lost in wandering, now aligned with the cosmic compass within. Could it be that the strange timings in your life are not random at all, but the same navigation written into your spirit by the Creator? And history warns of those who resisted this timing. Think of King Herod, who sought to control destiny by slaughtering infants in Bethlehem, attempting to stop what heaven had already decreed. His paranoia became his ruin. History remembers him not for power, but for cruelty. What does his end teach us if not this? Those who resist divine alignment collapse under the weight of their own schemes. Which path will you choose, fighting the current until it drowns you, or yielding to it until it carries you? The more you awaken to this rhythm, the stronger it becomes. Doors close at the very moment they must. People leave your life seconds before they could drain your soul. New faces arrive at the exact hour they are needed. The steps of a man are established by the Lord when he delights in his way. Psalm 37-23. This is Saturn's cosmic stamp of approval playing out in your everyday life. To the world it looks like luck, but for the chosen it is covenant, confirmation, and calling. Chosen one, rise with assurance. Stop calling it luck. Stop diminishing it as chance. These alignments are heaven's fingerprints on your path. The Saturn-Moon conjunction is proof that your days are not random, they are orchestrated. Walk boldly now, because your life is no longer chaos, it is choreography, alignment that is the essence of this moment. And the deeper this Saturn-Moon conjunction etches itself into your path, the clearer it becomes that what once appeared to be random was, in fact, the universe quietly rearranging itself to keep you on course. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans for welfare and not for evil, to give you a future and a hope. Jeremiah 29-11. A door is about to slam shut, and this time it will never creak open again. October 7th is not merely a celestial timestamp, it is a cosmic lock. The final turn of the key on cycles you have dragged like chains for years, perhaps even lifetimes. And here lies the brutal, dramatic truth. Once Saturn seals something, it is finished. There will be no rewinding, no negotiating, no sneaking back into the shadows of the old loop. What he opens, no one can shut, and what he shuts, no one can open. Revelation 3-7. The closing on October 7th will echo with finality. Can you feel the gravity of it, the knowing that some doors are not meant to be revisited? It may terrify the part of you that clings to familiarity, but it liberates the part of you destined for higher ground. Think of the patterns that stalked you like predators in the dark. Toxic relationships you kept circling back to. Betrayals replayed like an endless script. Financial struggles cresting and falling like tides against a worn shore. These were not random misfortunes, they were karmic scripts. Repeating lessons until you finally answered the question correctly. As a dog returns to its vomit, so fools repeat their folly. Proverbs 26-11. Have you not noticed the repetition? Cut the cycles like grooves on a broken record. And are you ready to let Saturn snap that record in half once and for all? On October 7th, Saturn stands as examiner, and the Moon records as scribe, stamping your paper and sealing the file. When that seal falls, the weight you have carried for so long will not simply loosen, it will vanish. Imagine the tectonic plates beneath the earth shifting. Suddenly, the tension that held for centuries is released, and the landscape is never the same again. Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Matthew 11:28. What you feel leaving your chest is not part of you dying. It is the burden that was never yours to carry being stripped away. At first, this strange emptiness may feel suspicious. Relief can masquerade as absence when you have been too accustomed to carrying weight. You may question, have I lost a part of myself? But here is the paradox. What you lost was never truly yours. You lost the dead weight of cycles that were suffocating your spirit. Forget the former things. Do not dwell on the past. See, I am doing a new thing. Isaiah 43-18-19. Saturn does not simply end a cycle, It buries it so deep that even memory struggles to resurrect it. Psychology names this moment closure. The rewiring of neural loops that once dragged you back into addiction and fear. In physics, it mirrors the breaking of resonance when one frequency no longer vibrates in response to another. In architecture, it is the keystone being set, after which the arch can never collapse back into rubble. Do you see how science itself bows to the same principle that heaven proclaims that some endings are not temporary but structural, irreversible, eternal? Even ordinary lives testify to this truth. I once met a bus driver named Miguel who confessed, "The day I finally walked away from the gambling table, it felt like I lost myself. But months later, I realized I hadn't lost myself. I had found the part of me that had been buried all along." His story is yours in miniature. The emptiness that first feels like death is actually resurrection. Chosen one, do not mourn the doors that close. Do not beg for cycles that chained you. Rise, because this Saturn-Moon conjunction is not here to comfort you, it is here to crown you. What ends on October 7th ends forever. What dies in this moment was killing you anyway. Stand tall, for you are stepping into a timeline where the old is buried beyond resurrection, and the new has finally begun. Here lies the danger few are willing to name, even after October 7th. Some will attempt to drag you back into the old stories. They will press against the scars to see if they still bleed, prod at the wounds to test whether they can still control you, tempt you into dramas you thought were finished. But the seal will already be made. The cosmic lock will have clicked. And if you attempt to re-enter that doorway, you will find nothing but an empty wall. What he opens, no one can shut. And what he shuts, no one can open. Revelation 3-7. Can you feel the seriousness of this truth, that what once pulled you into endless loops of pain will now fall flat? Powerless. Hollow. And this is where the hidden test inside the reward is revealed. Will you cling to the ghost of who you once were? Or will you accept the terrifying freedom of who you have become? Freedom, after all, is not the absence of chains, it is the presence of responsibility. It is for freedom that Christ has set us free. Stand firm, then, and do not let yourselves be burdened again by a yoke of slavery. Galatians 5-1. Freedom strips you of excuses. It leaves you without cycles to blame or karmic weights to justify your delay. Do you realize how frightening it is to stand unchained, where your next step is fully yours to define? Yet this is precisely what Saturn demands, that you no longer identify yourself by what wounded you, but by what you choose to build in its absence. The Saturn-Moon conjunction on October 7th will not merely declare lesson learned. It will thunder lesson finished. The door will slam. The key will break in the lock. And the entire hallway of your past will collapse like ruins swallowed by the sea. Forget the former things. Do not dwell on the past. See, I am doing a new thing. Isaiah 43-18-19. There will be no way back. No karmic spiral stalking you. No shadows whispering old accusations. The only footsteps you will hear are your own. And in that silence, in the absence of familiar battles, you will discover the ultimate proof that you have crossed into another level of your calling. Is it not astonishing that what once felt like endless war will end with the quiet of your own breathing? But do not mistake this for an ending. This is initiation. The conjunction of October 7th is not a period at the end of the sentence. It is the signature written at the bottom of the test paper, your paper filled with suffering endured, choices made, resilience carved from fire. Blessed is the one who perseveres under trial, because having stood the test, that person will receive the crown of life. James 1:12. Think of it less as a finale and more as a prelude, the final rehearsal before the curtain rises and the lights blaze on for the real performance. History and art echo the same truth. The French playwright Molière once wrote in The School for Wives, "It is not only what we do, but also what we do not do, for which we are accountable." Are you prepared to own that accountability now, with no cycle left to blame? This is the stage you were rehearsing for all along, and once the lights rise, you cannot return backstage pretending you were never called to perform. Even the testimonies of ordinary people carry this wisdom. I once met a fisherman on the coast of Brittany who said, "When my old boat sank, I thought my life was over, but it was the only way I would ever step onto the stronger vessel waiting for me." His voice trembled as he spoke, but his eyes burned with peace. Could it be the same for you, that the collapse you once mourned was actually the doorway to the craft designed to carry you further? So rise. Chosen one. The Saturn-Moon conjunction does not close your story, it opens it. The weight is gone, the chains are shattered, and the excuses are dead. The test is complete, the signature is written, and the stage is set. Stand tall now, because the rehearsal is over, and destiny has called you to step into the real performance. This conjunction is the quiet yet thunderous confirmation that you have survived the most excruciating chapter of your story. But do not mistake survival for the end. It was never the finish line. Survival was only the ticket into the arena. Beyond this alignment looms something far greater, the Great Conjunction. The kind of celestial event that rewrites collective energy fields, resets timelines, and draws a stark dividing line between those prepared and those unprepared. Many are called, but few are chosen. Matthew 22:14. Can you feel it, that trembling sense that the universe itself is sorting destinies? That some paths will close forever while others blaze open in divine fire? Saturn, with its cold and uncompromising wisdom, has already begun the filtering process. Not everyone will be carried into the next chapter. Some will remain stuck in the cycles they refuse to outgrow. Only those who faced the fiercest storms without collapsing or more powerfully. Those who broke but reassembled into stronger vessels will bear the full weight of what comes next. Blessed is the one who perseveres under trial, because, having stood the test, that person will receive the crown of life. James 1:12. This is not some shallow reward for pain endured. It is an initiation through endurance, a passage only the resilient can cross. Does your spirit recognize itself here as one who has been tempered by storms? How many folded when the pressure grew unbearable? Some grew bitter, their hearts calcified like stone. Some hardened into cynicism, convincing themselves hope was a lie. Some silenced their own inner compass to escape the fire, trading destiny for temporary comfort. But you endured, not because circumstance demanded it, but because your soul refused to abandon itself. Though he slay me, yet will I trust in him. Job 13:15. That was the exam, not the chaos itself, not the heartbreak or the losses, but the way you walked through it without losing yourself. Isn't that the mystery, that the exam was never about external outcomes, but about internal fidelity? Nature itself reveals this truth. The pearl is born only when an oyster is wounded, layering beauty upon irritation until what was once a threat becomes treasure. In the same way, your trials have secreted wisdom around your pain, creating something luminous the world could not see until now. And just as the desert waits until nightfall to bloom with unseen flowers, so your endurance has prepared you to blossom in a season others call barren. Could it be that what once scarred you is about to crown you, and history warns us of the opposite? Think of Pontius Pilate, a man given the chance to stand for truth, yet too afraid to resist the crowd. His name endures not for glory, but for compromise, forever tied to betrayal of justice. What is his story, if not a warning that those who shrink back from the test end up remembered not for what they preserved, but for what they surrendered? Which legacy will you embody, the courage of one who endured, or the shadow of one who yielded? This Saturn moon moment is the stamp that says, yes, they are ready. But here lies the dramatic twist. When Saturn grants clearance, it does not mean your life becomes easy. It means your life becomes heavy with purpose. To whom much is given, much will be required. Luke 12:48. Destiny is weighty. Calling is costly. Yet that burden is holy, and it rests now on your shoulders. Chosen one, rise, because you have not merely survived, you have been summoned, and the heavens will not waste what they have refined. The moon's role in this alignment is to press the energy deep into your emotional body so that it does not remain an abstract concept in your mind. It becomes something you feel in your bones, something etched into your spirit. You feel both the finality of what has ended and the gravity of what has just begun. He heals the broken-hearted and binds up their wounds. Psalm 147:3. The foreshadowing here is razor sharp. If you believed that the pain itself was the climax, then you misunderstood the story. That pain was only the initiation ritual, the fire that burned away what could not travel with you into the next chapter. Can you sense that the real narrative begins not in the suffering, but in what you will become because of it? The silence after the storm is not emptiness. It is the unveiling of a throne being prepared. It is the hush before the coronation, when all heaven waits to see if you will rise. The truth is this: the real chapter begins when the great conjunction rises. And only those who endured Saturn's silent exam, those nights of hidden wrestling when no one applauded, when no one saw your tears, will have the capacity to wield that surge of power without being devoured by it. And after you have suffered a little while, the God of all grace will himself restore, confirm, strengthen, and establish you. 1 Peter 5:10. The universe does not waste suffering. Every scar is a certificate that you were being prepared for something beyond survival. Does it stir you to realize that what once felt like senseless agony was in fact the architecture of destiny? Trials you thought were meant to kill you were actually chiseling you into a foundation strong enough to hold others. Can you see now that your scars are not disfigurements but signatures of resilience carved by God's own hand? Do not misread the moment. This is not closure, as the human heart often craves it. It is not about tying everything with a neat bow, declaring the worst behind you. It is far deeper than that. This is cosmic foreshadow, a whisper from the stars saying, "You made it through the threshold. Behold, I am doing a new thing, now it springs forth. Do you not perceive it?" Isaiah 43:19-40. But here lies the piercing question: are you braced for the throne? Because initiation is never about what ended, it is about the power that is now arriving, and whether you are prepared to carry it without breaking again. Endings feel safe because they close doors. Beginnings are terrifying because they demand responsibility. Are you ready for the terrifying weight of destiny? The kind that strips away excuses and leaves you face to face with your true calling. You survived for a reason. October 7th is not a date on a calendar. It is a demand from heaven. Saturn requires you to use what was forged in the fire. The trials were never punishment, never random cruelties. Every sleepless night, every heartbreak, every rejection was a weight crafted to shape you into something unbreakable. We are hard-pressed on every side, but not crushed, perplexed, but not in despair. 2 Corinthians 4-8. And now, as the Saturn-Moon conjunction approaches, survival is no longer the point. The point is what you will do with the strength you have earned. Do you understand the magnitude of this shift, that you are no longer a survivor recounting stories of pain, but a steward of strength called to guide others? The fire did not leave you weaker, it revealed the steel hidden within your soul. Saturn does not reward with comfort, Saturn seals oaths. This alignment is not a soft pat on the back, it is a cosmic contract signed in your endurance. It is the moment where your resilience transforms into responsibility. You are no longer a candidate being tested, you are a vessel being consecrated. You are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation. God's special possession, uxipitakaxi, uhdexen. Passing the test does not place a crown on your head, it places a burden in your hands. Are you ready to stand steady where others collapse? To see clearly where others are blind? To hold strength when the collective falters? Because the burden now is sacred, it is no longer about carrying your own survival, but about holding a torch bright enough to lead those who are still in darkness. Even ordinary lives bear witness to this sacred shift. A young teacher I once spoke to in a rural village whispered, "I thought my pain was just mine to carry, but then I saw my students drawing courage from my scars." Her confession revealed a universal truth. The weight you once bore in secret is now the very strength others will lean on. Could it be that your private survival was always meant to become public service? The trials you endured did not just fortify you for yourself, they shaped you into a vessel strong enough to carry others into their own breakthroughs. What once isolated you will now connect you, because strength is never meant to remain private. And this is where the alignment strikes with ultimate force. The weight you carried alone is now the weight you are meant to carry for others. The trials were the rehearsal, now comes the performance. The hidden nights were the preparation, now comes the consecration. Chosen one, rise, for Saturn has sealed your initiation, and heaven has handed you responsibility. The crown is not decoration, it is duty. Stand, because you are no longer merely surviving, you are commissioned. And when you step forward, the world will know that your scars were not signs of weakness, but seals of authority. There is a silence that terrifies those who are unprepared. After the storm, when the winds stop and the waves flatten, the human heart often panics, mistaking quiet for emptiness. But this silence is not absence, it is gestation. It is the pause heaven inserts before the unveiling of power. Be still, and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. What you thought was the end was never an ending. It was the hush before a new world begins. Have you noticed how your soul grows restless in the quiet? As if something too vast for words is gathering in the dark. The truth is that silence is not weakness. Silence is alignment. When Jesus stood before Pilate and did not answer, his silence was not surrender, it was strategy. The sound of heaven, preparing resurrection, Matthew 27-14. Can you sense the same thing in your own spirit, that the silence pressing against your chest is not abandonment, but incubation? The foreshadowing is sharp. This lull is not here to soothe you. It is here to prepare you. And the real question is, will you endure the discomfort of stillness long enough to witness what it births? Great artists have testified to this mystery too. The 20th century conductor Sergiu Celibidache once said, "The music is not in the notes, but in the silence between. That is the secret Saturn whispers now. Your power is not emerging in noise or chaos, but in the spaces you once feared, like a cathedral arch held up by its empty space as much as its stone. So your destiny is carried by the silence shaping it. Could it be that the most sacred part of your journey is not what you do, but what you allow heaven to do while you wait? Nature itself mirrors this law. Before lightning shatters the sky, the air goes still, heavy with charge. Before seeds split and sprout, there is the hush of soil holding life in secret. The silence before eruption is not barren, it is brimming. The kingdom of God is as if a man should scatter seed on the ground. He sleeps and rises night and day, and the seed sprouts and grows he knows not how." Mark 4:26-27. And are you willing to trust that your silence is carrying growth you cannot yet see? But beware, for history holds the warning of those who misread silence. King Ahab, restless in the waiting, sought false prophets to fill the void. 1 Kings 22-6-8. His impatience cost him his throne and his life. What does this reveal, if not the danger of refusing the quiet? Do you see how the refusal to wait becomes the reason some never walk into their promise? Even ordinary souls have seen this truth. A baker I once met in a small village whispered, "The days my oven broke were the days I thought I lost everything. But those empty mornings taught me patience. And when I returned, my bread had a depth it never had before." Her story proves that absence can be preparation, and silence can be seasoning. Isn't it striking how heaven hides its greatest work in ordinary stillness? So hear this. Chosen one, the silence pressing against you is not punishment. It is prophecy. It is the pause before the trumpet, the still breath before the Spirit roars. Rise now, not in panic, but in trust. For the silence before power is the signature of heaven saying, "Prepare yourself, for what is coming next is too holy to be born in noise." When the mantle falls upon you, it does not feel like silk, it feels like stone. The chosen ones discover quickly that God does not reward with leisure, but with burden. Elijah's cloak did not merely warm Elisha's shoulders, it ignited a lifetime of prophetic fire. 2 Kings 2:13-14. Do you sense that same weight now pressing against your spirit, reminding you that your survival was never for you alone? This is the paradox of being chosen. The crown is invisible, but the responsibility is undeniable. And the mystery is this: what feels unbearable at first often becomes the very strength that defines you. A mantle is not placed because you are ready, it is placed because the world cannot wait for your perfection. Responsibility is heavier than suffering because it demands endurance in seasons where no applause follows you. Jesus himself declared, "To whom much is given, much will be required." Luke 12:48. Are you ready to bear what others will refuse? To walk through deserts where no one offers you water? For this is no ordinary calling. This is not about escape. This is about elevation into a role that demands you walk where others stumble, to speak when others fall silent, to carry weight when others collapse. There is no shortcut here. The mantle will stretch you, refine you, and force you to rely on God alone. And is that not the true measure of leadership, that your strength no longer comes from within, but from the one who sent you? Nature itself testifies. The eagle rises higher, not for comfort, but because thinner air keeps predators away. The oak tree spreads its branches wide, but its true power lies in roots invisible beneath the earth. Could it be that your unseen endurance has been preparing you to hold a mantle that few could survive? The Lord is my strength and my shield. My heart trusts in him, and he helps me. Psalm 28:7. And if creation itself reveals this law, then what excuse do we have for resisting it? The soil does not protest the seed it holds. The mountain does not complain of the snow it bears. The question is whether you will allow the hidden preparation to finally prove its purpose. But there is always the danger of those who reject their mantle. King Rehoboam inherited his father Solomon's throne, but despised the responsibility of wisdom. Instead of listening to the elders, he chose the folly of his peers. 1 Kings 12-8-11. And his kingdom shattered into rebellion. Do you realize how many destinies collapse? Not from lack of blessing, but from the refusal to carry responsibility with humility. This is the tragedy of wasted potential. When a mantle falls and the bearer treats it like a toy instead of a covenant. How many times in history has arrogance destroyed what patience would have preserved? The weight you carry is holy weight. I once met a nurse in a rural village who whispered, "I thought my job was to give medicine. But one night, when no doctor came, I realized God placed lives in my hands, and my courage mattered more than my diploma." Her story echoes the truth that responsibility transforms ordinary people into anchors for others. How many hidden mantles are already upon you, waiting for your yes? Perhaps the call on your life has already been tested in the quiet hours no one else saw. And perhaps it is precisely those unseen sacrifices that qualify you now for the visible mantle. Even the poets knew this. In T.S. Eliot's Murder in the Cathedral, Thomas Becket embraces martyrdom not for glory, but for duty to God's call, declaring that true triumph lies not in avoiding burden, but in bearing it unto death. Does this not mirror your own silence in the night, when you feel God pressing you not toward ease but toward purpose? Every chosen life eventually meets this crossroads. Will you accept the fire that forges you, or chase the comfort that empties you? And perhaps the most terrifying truth of all is that the refusal of the mantle is not neutral. It is betrayal of your own destiny. The mantle is never given for comfort. It is given to carry generations. Bear one another's burdens, and so fulfill the law of Christ. Galatians 6:2. Will you shrink from it, or will you stand? Knowing that the weight on your shoulders is not punishment but prophecy, this is the hour where heaven asks for your response. This is the moment when silence must break into courage. So rise, chosen one. The cloak of heaven is already draped across your frame. Do not run from it. Do not lay it down. Step forward. For responsibility is not the end of freedom, it is the birth of your authority. And once you say yes, the world itself will shift to make space for the authority you carry. There comes a moment in every chosen life where the line is drawn and there is no erasing it. The Saturn-Moon conjunction does not whisper, it carves. It divides paths like a sword of fire, cutting between what was and what must be. He will separate the people one from another as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. Matthew 25-32. Can you feel that boundary already rising in your own story? That trembling awareness that some relationships, some habits, some comforts will not be carried into the next season. The final separation is not cruelty, it is clarity. It is heaven's way of ensuring that destiny is never diluted by compromise. And perhaps this is why silence feels heavier now. Because deep inside you know the curtain is closing on certain chapters forever, and there is no turning the page back. This separation is not external alone, it is internal. Parts of you that once fit into the old pattern will no longer survive in the new. Paul wrote, "Therefore, if anyone is in Christ. The new creation has come, the old has gone. The new is here, 2 Corinthians 5:17. Are you willing to let your own outdated identity die so that your true design can emerge? This is the cost few are willing to pay. Many love the promise of being chosen, but fear the loss that consecration demands. Yet like a violin string that must be tightened until it almost snaps, your soul is being stretched into resonance with eternity. The pressure is not punishment, it is preparation. And the more the tension increases, the clearer the music of your destiny will become, until others hear the song of your life and know it could only have been orchestrated by heaven itself. Nature, too, proclaims this law. The caterpillar cannot carry its wings into the cocoon, it must dissolve before it flies. Rivers split at the delta, sending waters into entirely different directions, never to rejoin. Do you realize the same is happening in your life right now, that heaven is pressing you into currents that cannot turn back? The former things will not be remembered, nor will they come to mind. Isaiah 65:17. What you thought was nostalgia may in truth be chains, and what you thought was comfort may be the very weight holding you from your ascent. The mystery of nature is this: death and division always precede transformation. Without the cocoon, no butterfly; without the splitting, no rivers; without the cutting away, no future fruit. What feels like separation is really the geometry of heaven carving new pathways. But beware, for history is littered with those who refuse to honor the separation. Lot's wife looked back, longing for what was behind her, and she was turned into a pillar of salt. Genesis 19:26. What does this teach, if not the fatal cost of divided loyalty? How many today risk the same fate, frozen between obedience and desire, unwilling to release what heaven already condemned? Is there something in your own life that still whispers from the old city, tempting you to return to a door God has already sealed? Every backward glance risks calcifying your soul. The greatest tragedy is not missing the promise, but being immobilized in regret, unable to move forward, yet no longer belonging to the past. And yet, this separation is also holy protection. Jesus himself said, "Every plant that my heavenly Father has not planted will be pulled up by the roots." Matthew 15:13. The pruning may sting, but it saves. A gardener once told me in quiet wisdom, "The branches I cut today will feed the blossoms tomorrow." Her words reveal what heaven is doing now. It is not loss, it is strategy. Could it be that the very people or paths being stripped away are making space for the weight of glory about to rest upon you? What you lose now is fertilizer for what you will carry later. The soil of destiny does not waste what is cut. It recycles it into strength, vision, and clarity. The same hand that removes is the hand that plants. Even in the world of art and theatre, truth is echoed. In Euripides' tragedy, Medea, the heroine chooses vengeance and is separated forever from the love she once clung to. The story shocks because it shows the consequence of choosing darkness when a higher road was still possible. Does this not mirror the stark choice now before humanity, the path of bitterness or the path of consecration? And what will you choose when the curtain rises on your own act of destiny? Every stage reveals the actor's true hearts when the spotlight hits. The question is whether you will play the role written for you by heaven, or improvise a script of rebellion that leads to ruin. So hear this with trembling clarity: the final separation is not negotiable. It will come whether you feel ready or not. What matters is your response. Will you cling to ghosts? Or will you step into the freedom that terrifies because it carries no excuses? Rise. Chosen one. Stand in the fire of separation without fear. For this is not the end of your story. This is the threshold where heaven declares, you are no longer divided. You are consecrated. And your life is about to carry a weight that cannot be shared with the past. When you walk forward, you will not only leave behind what broke you, you will prove to the world that holiness is not survival, but transformation. Chosen ones. As we come to the end of this journey, through the 8 unmistakable signs that your karmic report has come back clean, let us pause and absorb the magnitude of what this truly means. You are standing at a threshold. Few have reached a place where the weight of old cycles no longer drags you into despair, where the chains of generational patterns have been shattered, and where heaven itself has stamped your path with approval. This is not the end of a season, it is the unveiling of a new framework of destiny. The moon and Saturn have conspired to mark this very moment as the chapter where your endurance turns into elevation. The truth is clear. Survival was never the prize. It was only the preparation. Every sleepless night, every unanswered prayer, every betrayal you endured was not wasted. It was Saturn's exam, silently measuring the resilience of your soul, shaping you for authority that only comes through trial. And now, as the conjunction settles into the fabric of your life, you are no longer the one carrying scars in shame. You are the one carrying them as banners of triumph. We rejoice in our sufferings, knowing that suffering produces endurance, and endurance produces character, and character produces hope. Romans 5:3-4. That is your reality now, a life not defined by pain, but by the hope forged through it. Yet, let us not mistake this clean report as a call to comfort. It is a call to responsibility. When Elijah's mantle fell on Elisha, it was not a sign of rest but of mission. 2 Kings 2:13-14. The same is true for you. A karmic report wiped clean does not mean ease, it means readiness. Readiness to lead when others falter. Readiness to shine when the world collapses into shadows. Readiness to become the lighthouse others will run to in the coming storms. Can you feel that holy weight resting on your spirit? Not as punishment, but as prophecy. This is the paradox of being chosen. You are not rewarded with escape, but with endurance crowned in glory. What, then, will you do with this freedom? The silence now pressing on your spirit is not emptiness, it is alignment. It is the divine pause before the orchestra swells. The moment when heaven ensures that the timing of your next step is orchestrated to perfection. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. Will you trust that the doors closing behind you are not losses, but seals of protection? Will you trust that the alignments unfolding in your daily life are not coincidences, but fingerprints of heaven? The clean report is your passport into this divine rhythm, where even delays are blessings and even setbacks are strategies. But here lies the most sobering truth. Not everyone is being carried into this chapter. Some will cling to their cycles and be swallowed by them. Some will look back, like Lot's wife, and be frozen in the salt of regret. Genesis 19:26. Do not be among them. This is the hour to separate from the ghosts of who you used to be and to embrace the terrifying freedom of who you are becoming. The final separation is not negotiable. It will either crown you or consume you. Yet for those who endured, for those who passed the hidden exam, heaven now whispers, you are ready. So rise. Chosen ones, Lift your head high, not in arrogance, but in holy confidence. Walk as one whose record is clean, whose path is marked, whose alignment is secure. You are no longer stumbling through random chaos. You are being carried by a current designed by the Creator Himself. And the world will notice. For the light that once flickered in you will now blaze as a fire that cannot be ignored. Before we close, I want to extend my deepest gratitude to those who have walked with me through this message. Thank you for your time, your heart, and your spirit's openness. To those who have supported through sharing, through subscribing, through comments, and yes, through super thanks, I bless you. And to those who simply listened in silence, know this, your presence matters. Whether you give financially or not, whether you write your testimony or keep it in your heart, I honor you. You are part of this unfolding story, and heaven sees your faithfulness. I invite you now, if this word spoke to your soul, share it with someone who needs it. Like this message so it can travel further. Comment 777 as a declaration that your karmic report has come back clean. And subscribe so you never miss what heaven is releasing in this season. This channel is not just content, it is a community of chosen ones rising together. A lighthouse built for such a time as this. And now, as we close, let me speak this blessing over you. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May He cause His face to shine upon you and give you peace. May every closed door behind you remain sealed forever. And may every open door ahead of you reveal destiny, joy, and unshakable strength. Walk boldly, chosen one, for your karma is clean, your season is marked, and your future is drenched in divine favor.